United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Council is in session. Would you call roll, please?
Diaz.
Here.
Gilbert.
Here.
Browner.
Here.
Lees. Here. Newberry. Here.
Thank you. All right, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Let's see, we have a consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve is presented.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. All right, so we'll go to our council and staff reports. Administrator?
Thank you, Your Honor. A few things tonight, just reminders, spring cleanup is May 6th, starting at 7 a.m. Burlington is adopting a new program, the three times a year pickup. Public Works, they get it done in a day for West Burlington. I don't know if that's something you're interested in taking a look at, scheduling, doing a 3 times a year or not. We can bring it forward for discussion if you are. But something to think about. I don't need answer or discussion right now. Just an FYI. It's a program I implemented a number of years ago and worked pretty well. But our program is on the 6th, that's starting at 7 a.m. So check out Facebook. There's flyers. There's information on what you can put out. Encourage folks to take a look at that, and we'll get that done. Rural Housing Readiness Assessment steering committee met last week. I think we had a good session. Not everybody was able to attend, but we had a number of action items that came out of that and some plans that will be coming forward. They're going to put that entire packet together, send us probably about after a month or so. We'll have that document from them. Number of action steps. We picked 4 key areas to focus on. A large chunk of it having to do with attracting developers to our area and some marketing components as well. Andy, you have anything to add from the meeting? I think it was a good meeting.
Yeah, I think
what we had.
I think one of the best parts of that meeting is you have a lot of heavy hitters in the area in that meeting, and having that many hours with that many people and guided by the Iowa State Extension Office, it's been really valuable, and I think will help us really take some action.
Absolutely. Pool will be opening May 30th, soft opening, full-time on June 6th. Katie's been hard at work, working with Kelly as well. She's got some good ideas. We've talked about marketing, social media, a number of different component pieces. She's attending training starting Friday, I believe, for her training. She'll be able to train other lifeguards after that program. But she's got already got a lot of good ideas for the coming year, so I'm excited about that. And so is Brad. He'll be starting a TikTok page. We don't have one currently, so we'll be moving forward with that. Economic development impact. In your weekly update, you'll see there's an economic impact study that was done and put forward by the League. I thought it was rather interesting. So you'll find a one-page summary sheet in there, and then you don't have it in front of you. It'll be in your weekly update, and then the full study will be in there. But there's a lot of good information in that economic development study. Every dollar of property taxes collected by cities generates $160 in the state economy. There's a number of good facts and information in that, preserving the city's ability to build the balanced property tax base through effective economic tools being essential to strengthening Iowa's economy. But this is just a little summary sheet. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. There's a lot of good information in there. Let's see, economic home serve. You do have a copy of that. I brought it up at our last meeting. This is a summary sheet I printed off from their site in cooperation with the National League of Cities program. I sent them a couple questions. I haven't heard back yet, but that's a little bit of a summary for those that may recall. If it's something that you'd like me to bring forward, take a look at that and get some input. You sound like you got some input right now? Or, oh, look, I get a question.
Nope, you're good.
Cool. Cooperation Committee, right now we're set to meet on the 7th, follow up on those 4 key items. The Trailhead, we met on site, well, at City Hall and on site with Iowa DNR today. Got a lot of good feedback during the review process, we were told by Amy with DNR. They like the project a lot. They like the high visibility of it. We have a couple steps we'll be taking, and then we'll get the contract as well. But we met on site and walked the site as well, and had a good discussion. So she also mentioned another grant opportunity now that we've received that one as well. The parking area that we're looking at for those 7, 8 plus or minus spaces in there, we had some discussion on using pavers like we did over adjacent to Lures Park. There's a potential grant for $50,000, which could actually make that project cheaper than doing the traditional route of concrete, and obviously provide a better product at the end of the day. So we're going to follow up on that with Jesse Howe, who's doing the work, and with Amy to see if we can't possibly get that grant to offset our costs and bring that project in even make it a better project and cheaper. So it was good just to meet on site. You never know what's going to come from those discussions. Let's see. Trailhead. Oh, and I also received permission to move to utilize the Chamber's 501(c) for the trust applications. So they sent a letter that I received yesterday or today, and I forwarded that on to the trust. So we are good to go on that, and I've got 2 draft applications put together. Nuisance hearings, don't need to talk about that at this point. And I sent an email out on this. If there's anybody interested, let me know. You can also attend as individuals. But if we want to get a table, we'll need to know probably sooner rather than later. So, is there anybody that knows that they're interested in participating on the 10th? That's just the leadership class trivia night for
I'd like to. I think I'm out of town that day.
Veterans Memorial.
That's
So
Friday night, right?
It's a Friday. Yeah, it's my daughter's birthday. So I had Keegan talk to her when she stopped by yesterday, get her permission. Sounds good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Chase?
We finished with replacing the water main on Houston last week. Everything on the water side's done, but once we get a good week of weather, we'll have to close it temporarily down again to pour all the concrete back. So it's just gravel right now, but we will get to it once we get a good week of weather. Tomorrow we're going to be replacing a 12-inch valve by the high school, and it will require shutting down a handful of houses, which we all have. We put door knockers out on everyone. It's going to be affected tomorrow. And then the sewer lining for those, they would like to come next week, they're thinking. So as long as everything goes good, they're hoping to be down here beginning of next week to start on Houston and then move over to West Air. And they said they should get it done in about a day. So, and then we had a meeting with Schneider today, and they're gonna have to change a couple of things on the Pack Klein water main, a little design issue because of how close the sewer is. But hopefully they're gonna get that done before the next meeting. So
We might have to push back the bid opening date to allow contractors to take into account the changes that DNR's looking to impose. We reviewed 3 or 4 different options today. Chase and Troy came up with some good ideas, and they're following up on those. So we'll let you know if that changes. But the plan is still to get it done. Just a matter of pushing it back a little bit to allow contractors to adequately respond.
then Jesse and I met out on Sunset today. We filled out a grant for a railroad crossing on Sunset, and they pretty much just wanted to come out and go over it and talk about different options before we move forward. So, with anything, before they make their decision. So, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask, which kind of crossing are you talking about? Just putting stop signs there, or?
No, the grant is actually for arms.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
But there's a couple things they wanted some new signage out, and they wanted us to trim some trees back, and then they also talked about if they do the crossing, they might be forced to widen the road in that portion just a little bit. But
Okay.
they're going to get back to us. So
Thank you.
that's all I got.
Jesse?
I got a few things. Mark and I met out of VA today. It's going well. They're working on one of the contractors to get in there so they can get the sidewalk and the approach poured for the parking lot so we can get that sidewalk back opened on Division. So we're just kind of waiting on the contractor to get moving on that. Hopefully that starts here in a week or so. But inside's going well. They're getting sheetrock put up. All the rooms are framed out, plumbing's going up, electrical's in partially, so it's looking fallish when they're looking at opening that VA clinic up out there, so we're really excited about that. Hopefully this was the last of the weather this week. Scooters, we put out a thing on social media, just their parents watching, they just need to remind their kids they need to obey the traffic laws. We're going to get in the schools next week and talk to all the classes in the elementary, or most of the classes. We're not going to go talk to kindergartners, but we're going to probably second, third grade on up, get in the classrooms, talk to them about public safety. Police department has some challenge coins. Funding is going to go towards the K-9 unit, since that's a fundraiser. But drives that fund for us, so if anybody wants a challenge coin, they're $20 up here at City Hall. They can stop by and pick one up. We just did glucose monitoring for our wellness program, our wellness program. I talked to Tara about it today. A lot of good information. She's hearing a lot of good information from us that participated in that. She's been working on a thing out at the hospital where she works, so hopefully she got a lot of good information from us and a few other people that's done that. It's very, very interesting. I know Chase and I and several of us participated in it, and just amazing what, not paying attention about it, and you look in the app and you start looking your meals and all the different things that you eat and drink, how it affects it, sleep, stress, all that just affects your blood sugar. So it was a good program. She did very well with that. That's all I have today.
All right, thank you. Okay, anything from, nope, okay. Any other staff reports we need? Okay. Let's go to council then.
Nothing tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right.
Two things. Business of the year, tomorrow morning. We'll meet here at 10:45 a.m. and then go to the business that has won. I want to remind people that this was voted on by city or school district, SCC, and last year's winner, Schluters. So we'll announce that at 11 a.m. I think we'll have some press here with us, and everybody is welcome. Anybody listening wants to come, meet at City Hall, 10:45 a.m. tomorrow. We'll go and surprise that business and have a little party there. And then raffle tickets we'll have here shortly in a week or two. And so if you're interested in having a group sell raffle tickets for the 4th of July as a fundraiser, we'll have those at City Hall. If you're interested, come up here and ask, and I'll get a hold of you, and we'll get you signed up. But pretty easy way to make $1,000 to $2,000 for your organization. You don't have to put any money in. You just sell the tickets for $2. You get to keep $1. So pretty nice fundraiser. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. Therese?
It's amazing, I don't have anything.
All right.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Well, on mine, I went to Des Moines last week on Thursday and Friday for the tourism conference, and I've got a few ideas, and I think one of the things that came up that I was most impressed with was that I'm so far behind on social media that they might as well be sending me a letter, I think. So, and with that, I'll move to my proclamation, which I have here. I'll read the proclamation. Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April of 2026, whereas sexual abuse and sexual violence and stalking affect anyone, including children, leaving or causing long-term physical, psychological, and emotional harm. And for every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes, the victim is a child. And approximately 70% of the people affected by rape or sexual assault experience moderate to severe distress, a larger percentage than for any other violent crime. And sexual violence in rural communities exists as a hidden, silent, and often unrecognized crime that is often unreported. It's widespread and affects every community member. And whereas through the inspiration, courage, and resilience of people affected by sexual violence, our communities are learning to better respond to life-changing impact of sexual violence on individuals through systems and in the community. And DVIP and RVAP has worked to end violence and abuse for more than 45 years through the collaborative partnerships of staff, volunteers, local municipalities, criminal justice, health and human services, faith communities, business leaders, and private citizens. And whereas our community's achievements could be commended, we must continue our commitment to respect and support those affected by sexual violence and also to prevent future violence in our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City Council of West Burlington, Iowa, do proclaim the month of April to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of West Burlington and urge people to work together to eliminate sexual violence, sexual abuse, and stalking from our community. Signed this 18th day of March, 2026 in West Burlington by Ron Teeter, Mayor. Okay, well, let's just do this.
Thanks for being here.
Would you like us to say some words?
I think that would be appropriate, yes.
So I would like to thank the City Council. My name is Delaney Dixon. I am the Co-Executive Director of DVIP RVAP. That just happened in December. Our long-term Executive Director, Christy Fortman-Dozer, retired after 39 years in victim services. I have been with DVIP RVAP myself for 27 years. So this is something that is near and dear to my heart. This is our sexual assault advocate, Rachel. Some of you may have seen her around. The work that we do, I think the proclamation says, it affects everyone, but it's hard to talk about. And so it is imperative to have advocates and people present who will believe victim survivors and help them navigate that trauma that they've experienced so that while they cannot be held responsible for what has happened to them, we can assist them in their recovery and help them get to the resources that are necessary for that recovery. But we can't do that without the community. We can't do that without people being willing to embrace DVIP, RVAP, embrace our advocates, and believe victim survivors when they say they need help. So that is an intricate system that has to work together. It's not just for that individual, that victim survivor to reach out, but it's for that community to embrace them. And Des Moines County and West Burlington has done that over the years, and we appreciate that. There was a transition with DVIP, RVAP in October 2024. And so we have been doing the work for the last 18 months in a different way than it was done before. And so in order for that to be successful, we had to have people go out on faith and trust that we were still centered around victim survivors. And West Burlington showed us that they were. So we appreciate the work that you've done, and we appreciate your collaboration and being open to us as an agency. I'm going to let Rachel speak a couple of words, and then we'll be out of your hair. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody. I've had some officers from your police department call me and ask questions or ask, to refer clients to us. So it's happening in your community. It's happening in here. Our numbers were, last year, just in Des Moines County, we served 28 sexual assault victims. And we provided them with 543 services. So,
does anyone have any questions?
I do, ladies. I know that in my encounters within the past, that sometimes a spouse doesn't realize that she can actually be a victim from another spouse. And, I mean, if you tried to, I know you've done some education for women, most of the time it was women, that was not aware that they had that protection. And it was afterward, even educated people did not know that. And I did not know if you were, what type of information you were able to get out, and that even spouses should be aware of it.
I think we've spread some stuff in the community. I actually have some that are spousal abuse, clients that were part of the spousal abuse. So I think the word is getting out what our services are, and sometimes it's helping that spouse get to a safety, whether it be help them with housing so they have a safe place to go. So we've had a few of them that we've helped get into safe housing down here in Des Moines County.
Also, we do community engagement events. So we like to be at people's fairs. We like to be at events. We like to be at fairgrounds, a lot of fairgrounds. So that people see us not just in the space of trauma, but also see us in the community and see us around. So that they can approach us, or they can approach us for a loved one and ask questions. We want to be available and open and accessible to people to ask questions. It doesn't have to be that you're in trauma yourself or that someone you care about is in trauma right now. If you have that question about that, and oftentimes that's how it's contextualized. I have a question for a friend, or I was just wondering. And we are happy to talk to people about that. We are happy to talk to civic groups and church groups, as well as talking to the community about what sexual assault looks like, what the dynamics are, because I think, a lot of us watch TV, and so we want to believe that if it fits that, law and order SVU, right? And the truth of the matter is that that's not what it looks like. It looks like everyday engagement and someone not paying attention to your autonomy and taking away your consent. So, and that absolutely can happen even in a marriage, because I think traditionally people believe that once you're married, you don't get the right to have consent for yourself. So it can be complex, it can be complicated, but we want to meet people where they are. We're not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. We're not going to force you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but we want to be there to have a listening ear so you can process what's going on and what's happening with you.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
On the back, too, is events from the CE that we'll be having. So we're going to be, this is the first year we're bringing back the Clothesline Project, downtown Burlington. It's where victims have made shirts to tell their story, and they'll be displayed downtown Burlington. We are having Shop for Survivors. I'm not sure which location that is yet, but it's, last year it was at the Hy-Vee downtown. And we encourage you on April 7th to wear teal. And the library also has books from sexual assault books on display.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Any citizen inquiries? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. We have a discussion on construction management services with Carly Nelson and company.
We've got Chris Smith and Aaron Ingberg with Carly Nelson tonight. A couple years ago, I believe it was, legislature changed the rules and allowed for alternative methods of construction. We still don't have design build in Iowa. I'd love to see design build. I will mention that to our legislators anytime I see them, but I've had the benefit of using that in New Hampshire, and I'd love to see us have that option here in Iowa as well. Truly a cost savings, and I think it's a good product. But with that, turn it over to Chris and Aaron.
All right, I'm going to start off. Chris is going to be doing the majority of the presentation here, but just want to thank you for giving us a chance to educate you a little bit on these delivery methods. As Greg said, as a public entity, there are only a few legal ways that a city council can implement these delivery methods, and the new construction management at risk delivery method has created some confusion in the marketplace, so we're here to try to explain that to you. We want to make sure that this is interactive. We're not here to just talk. If you've got questions, please stop Chris and make sure that you ask questions while we're doing this. Just really quickly, I'm Aaron Ingberg, Director of Business Development. I've been working with Carly Nelson now for about a year and a half. Born and raised in the area, 1993 Burlington High School graduate. My kids have been on many sports programs within the West Burlington School District, and we're very active in this school district. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday, I'm speaking to Mr. Bowman's class about the benefits of going to the trades to all his juniors, so I'm highly active.
I'm Chris Smith. I'm the president of Carly Nelson. I grew up over by Fairfield on a farm and went on to Iowa State Engineering School, and currently live just west of Danville, and I've been with our company now for about 28 years. So.
All right, we'll go to the next slide. Just a really quick introduction to Carly Nelson. We're a design build construction manager and general contractor here in the Burlington area. We're proud to say we were founded in 1913, so our company is 113 years old. We have a lot of experience on our staff. Our average working construction, construction experience for our superintendents is 30 years. So we're very proud of that. And then our project managers have 25 years of construction experience. Safety is always really important to our company. We're in a dangerous occupation. We're proud to say that we've had now 6 years since we've recorded a lost time accident. So that is over 1.5 million hours, but we believe that the 6 years is more impressive. And then last but not least, we are an employee-owned company. We've been employee-owned since 1946. We currently have 26 owners of the company, and that not only includes our office personnel, it also includes people in the field. So we are very proud of that as well. When you talk to our clients, they would say that we're very client focused. We really take time to understand what your needs are so we can reach your goals. We also are very relationship driven. We are not a company that likes to just work with our clients once. We're doing work so that we can't become a long-term client of yours. And then last but not least, we believe that we are problem solvers. When I go into a new client, or if I talk to someone that we're trying to win their business, I talk about us being a problem-solving company. That problem can be, for instance, a budget issue, right? We need to get your project within a certain budget. It could be a time issue. We need to do something quickly. We need to get it done fast. It could be that at the end of the day, there's a complicated solution that needs to be thought of. That is where we are usually hired. Usually a problem needs to be solved. Last but not least, our core business values are fairness and honesty, quality workmanship, and service second to none. That's what we believe every day, and that's what we try to follow. So with that, we'll introduce Chris here and let him do the presentation.
All right. Thank you for having us here tonight, and I want to reiterate what Aaron said, that please stop me at any point. I'm going to throw a lot of information out there that might be a lot to swallow, so stop me and interrupt. We can talk in more detail about something here. I'm going to talk to you about the different contracting methods, or really alternative delivery methods that are available to you. As Greg mentioned, we're absolutely firm believers that design build is far superior delivery method. We do a lot of design build work. Unfortunately, you can't do that. A public entity in Iowa cannot currently do that. But what's happened is that the industry has responded to that, recognizing that design build's superior, it's not allowed, so construction management is the result that came out of that. And there's two different construction management delivery methods here that we'll talk about. The first one is design, bid, build, which is kind of the fancy way of saying, you know, publicly bid that I think you guys are all familiar with. It's kind of an old school method. It's got its place, but there's a lot better delivery methods that are out there right now. Obviously, it starts by advertising the project, sending out the documents for public bid. The contract would need to be awarded to the lowest bid that comes from a responsible and responsive bidder. You guys are familiar with that. There'd be a general contractor that general contractor would subcontract out the work to subcontractors and suppliers. GC may or may not self-perform work themselves. And then the GC, general contractor, is not at all involved in the design process. By definition, they don't start until after the drawings and specifications are completely done, which is a big missed opportunity because the builder can really have a lot of influence that we'll talk about on your project. So a long time ago, the industry came out with construction manager as an agent. And we've been doing this for a long time. I actually look back, our first job doing construction management and agent was in 1996. That was for the Des Moines County Correctional Facility, actually. That was our first time doing CM agency. But really it exploded for our company in 2004. That was kicked off by Community Field. We were the construction manager as an agent with Community Field. And then at that point it exploded. In fact, we're now in our 70th project for a public entity in Iowa as a construction manager, as an agent. The procurement options for that are wide open. You can do whatever you want. You can hire whoever you trust, the minute you want, no competition is required. And the reason is a construction manager is an agent is considered a professional service. It's technically not a contractor, so you can hire them any way you want. There's just general, I guess, comment about construction management. There is, I think, a misconception out there sometimes that construction management can add cost to the project. I don't know if we can afford a construction manager. We've heard that before. And we're pretty adamant that it's not going to add cost to the project, assuming that the project is compatible with it. Not all projects are, and we'll talk about that. But if a project is compatible for a construction manager, essentially we replace a general contractor. So there's not double markups. We're not adding a layer of fees to that because we're hiring multiple prime contractors on the city's behalf. And then there's a CM fee that gets applied to that, but there's no double markups in it. With this method, as I mentioned, it'd be multiple prime contractors that would be contracted directly between the city and those contractors. We write those contracts, we manage those contracts, and just as if they were our own, but technically they'd be working directly for the city. The construction manager as an agent is very actively involved during that design and pre-construction process. Unlike a general contractor, we'd be working closely alongside the architects and engineers, which really can have a significant impact on the cost and the schedule and the success of the project. We don't have time tonight, but we can show you countless examples of literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that we've been able to save our clients during that pre-construction time frame by just making recommendations. Some of them are subtle changes that nobody would ever even know, but it literally can be hundreds of thousands of dollars savings. The other thing we do is we'll do multiple cost estimates as both types of construction manager during the design process. Let design get, say, 25% complete, we do a cost estimate. A lot of times we find that design is more than what your budget is. So we help find ways to reduce the cost. The design then moves to 50% complete. We do another cost estimate. Sometimes it's over your budget again, so we do another round of value engineering. That way, when it comes time to bid the project out, there's not big surprises on what the project cost, and you lose a lot of time sorting that out. Essentially, as a construction manager and agent, we're an extension of the city staff, working on your behalf, representing you, have your best interest in mind, and just overall management of the project. One other thing that we can do as a construction manager, both methods, is we can fast track the project. Let's say you're building a new, pick a building, police station. You know, typically it's quicker to design the civil components of that, the grading, the utilities, and the foundations, and maybe the structure. It's quicker to design those components of the building than it is some of the interior, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So a lot of times if you're in a hurry to get into a building, we can put those packages out for bid early while the rest of the design is still being wrapped up, get a jump on that construction, and then eventually bid out the rest of the project and let it catch up. So it's an option to fast track and get you in a facility a lot quicker. Next option is this construction management at risk. This is fairly new in Iowa for public entities. It's been allowed in a lot of other states for a long, long time, but it was implemented in Iowa July of 2022, and a construction manager at risk is considered a contractor. It's not considered a professional service, which means that there's a prescribed process that you must go through to hire a construction manager at risk. Again, CMA, you can hire them any way you want, whenever you want. CM at risk, you have to go through a process that actually has a pretty similar resemblance of bidding the construction out. Starts with advertising a public notice that you intend to hire a CM at risk. Then you have to publicly advertise a request for qualifications. You receive the statement of qualifications. You score the firms. The firms that meet your minimum criteria, you'd issue a request for proposal to. You review and score those fee proposals. And if you want, at that point, you can hire the best value construction manager, or you can elect to do interviews and invite, say, 2 or 3 firms to come in and do a presentation. The bad part is that process realistically takes about 3 or 4 months to get through the advertisement, the request for qualifications, the request for fee proposal, interviews. So it's pretty time consuming. Again, CM at agency, today you could hire someone if you wanted to. We believe that Iowa's kind of messed up that procurement process. Great delivery method, but the state has messed that up, in our opinion. Just like CM agency, the CM at risk would be actively involved during the design pre-construction phase of the project. Same cost estimating process, same value engineering opportunities to save money for the city. In both cases, the construction manager would bid out the project to, in the CM at risk, it'd be technically be subcontractors because they'd be working for the CM at risk. CM agency, they'd be prime contractors. It's the same group of contractors. It'd just be a difference in how they were contracted. So you still have the bidding process with all these delivery methods. A CM at risk will oftentimes self-perform portions of the project, whereas a CM agent typically won't self-perform anything on the job. The CM at risk does. The state of Iowa actually allows the CM at risk to automatically self-perform with no competition anything less than the public bidding threshold, which is $206,000 today. The CM at risk can pre-qualify subcontractors. That's a major advantage of CM at risk. You know, unfortunately, we all see times where there's contractors, you know, bidding your project that don't have any business doing that type of a project. They may be good at, you know, whatever, but they're not good at that type of project. We can pre-qualify that, and then only the subcontractors pre-qualified will be allowed to bid that project. The CM at risk would typically have a guaranteed maximum price contract. It wouldn't be lump sum, so any savings that comes at the end of the job would be credited back to the city. That's another pretty significant advantage to you. Want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each delivery method. Each one has pros and cons that we'll kind of summarize here. Starting with the old school design bid build. Aaron and I chuckled when we were putting this together. Quite honestly, I can't think of a single pro to design bid build. I don't think there's any advantages to it because the other delivery methods do it just as well. But it does have a place, and what place is that? I think it works well for simple projects or projects that don't have a lot of trades. Let's say you're going to repave a street. By and large, there's maybe a grading, excavation grading utility contractor, and there's a paving contractor. Not a lot of different trade interactions. That's probably not the right job for a construction manager. So design bid build, excuse me, works good for that type of project. I guess a con is, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, sometimes the lowest bid isn't always the best bid, right? Oftentimes that's the case. And with design bid build, again, you have to give that work to the lowest responsible bidder. Another major con is that general contractor has no involvement in the design and pre-construction. That's really a missed opportunity to add value to your project. A lot of times the design bid build projects have somewhat of an adversarial relationship. There's just a tone, it's competing interests, I'm protecting my pocketbook, I'm not looking out for your best interest because of that. That's a whole lot better situation with construction manager because they're really working on your behalf with your best interest in mind. And then design bid build tends to have a lot higher risk of budget and schedule overruns, just the nature of the type of project. So that'd be another con. See them at risk, pros and cons. One of the big advantages that we talked about was we can pre-qualify subcontractors as a CM at risk. The criteria has to be very objective. So it's, you know, you can't disqualify them just because you heard they did a bad job down the street for somebody else. I mean, it's got to be pretty objective criteria. Another big advantage is it's a very collaborative process through that design, through the pre-construction, through the construction. It makes it a lot more enjoyable to get through that project. It's a teamwork type environment. We talked a little bit about a major pro is that CM at risk is actively involved during that design pre-construction, helping do multiple cost estimates, keeping that project within your budget, planning out the design to make sure it's constructible. It's designed in a way that the job can be built. It makes it for a smoother project, tends to stay on schedule a lot better. Another advantage of CM at risk as opposed to CM agency is that there'd be one contract. It'd be one contract between the city and the CM at risk, and then we would have subcontractors underneath us. That's different than CM agency. We'll talk about that. A major con of CM at risk is the selection process. We talked about it's a pretty cumbersome process with all the advertisement. It can take 3 or 4 months to get through that. A lot of times we see clients that elect to go CM agency because they're in a hurry for the project and they want to go CM agency so they can get a partner on board right now and get going. A CM at risk can have some conflict of interest because they're at risk for the cost and schedule of the project. So there can be a little bit of a tendency that I'm protecting my own pocketbook rather than the client. I'm saying it's really a CM at risk. Can have a little bit of that conflict of interest because of that contracting. And then another, I guess, con or something to think of is there's a lot of people that think at risk. That sounds good. I want my construction manager to be at risk. That means I, as a client, don't have that risk. But really, what does that mean? What's a CM at risk for? And the answer is what's shown in the drawings and the specifications. If it's not shown in the drawings and the specifications, we're not at risk for that. That'd be a change order just like it would be for anything else. If there's a design error and omission, that wouldn't be part of the at-risk piece of that. If there's an unforeseen condition that comes up on the site, that wouldn't be at risk. So it's true that a CM is at risk, but not for everything. It's only a defined scope of work. And then one other potential con is a lot of times the construction manager will do things to limit their risk on the job. One is the construction manager at risk will have to provide a bond to the city to do that, just like any other contractor. But a lot of times what they will do is they'll back bond their subcontractors to limit their risk, which comes at a cost that gets passed through the project. And then they can also add subcontractor default insurance, which is actually a better protection than a bond because it kicks in a lot quicker, but that also comes at a cost to the project. Now, pros and cons for CM agency. One of the major pros for CM agency is the procurement method. Again, you can hire a CM agent that you trust whenever you want. No competition would be required per the state law anyway. Another pro, just like CM at risk, it's a very collaborative process. You got that assistance through the design, pre-construction, the same, all of that would be the same. CM at risk and CM agency can fast track the project. We talked about that. That can really have a pretty substantial impact on how quickly you can get into a project. The CM would, as an agent, would be acting as an extension of your staff. There'd be absolutely no, conflict of interest like there potentially could be with the CM at risk. It'd just be really, we'd be working as part of your staff, eyes and ears on the job site, looking at quality schedule. One downside to CM agency is there's multiple prime contracts. So what's that mean? It's a little bit more paperwork that we would manage on your behalf. One downside is what if there's a contractor that's not performing very well? What if pick somebody, electrician is not performing very well? It's a cumbersome process to basically to fire that electrical contractor and bring in a replacement for it. The bonding company has to get involved, and it's a cumbersome process. Versus a CM at risk, they'd be a subcontractor. The CM at risk can fire him and go hire somebody else, and it's all within that one contract. So that is a downside. Another downside is a CM agency cannot pre-qualify those subcontractors like you can at CM at risk. We have to award to the lowest responsible bidder. I think that's it for the pros and cons of that. This slide here on the left side looks a little bit overly complicated, but essentially it's just kind of demonstrating that timing is important to get a contractor on board during your design process. If you start at the very onset of design, we can have a great impact on your project without adding any cost or any delays to it. If you move towards the right-hand side of that bar chart, once it gets closer to construction, the ability and the cost to make changes to your project, it's too late. It's cost prohibitive at that point to do. On the right-hand side there, that table talks about a lot of the different services through the design, pre-construction, as well as through the construction process. The items in the gray, kind of the top 2/3, would all be prior to the job going out for bid. And as you can see, the construction manager is doing all those tasks and services, but the general contractor hasn't even been hired at that point. The items in the blue, obviously both the CM and the general contractor are doing those tasks. You guys are going too easy on us. Any questions?
What are you doing for Burlington? Is this one of the things
Yeah.
that they're involved with?
For the fire station?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. CM agency is what we're doing for them.
Okay.
Yep.
And that would then speed up the process, right, as I
Well,
understand it?
I think there's two things that speed up the process, but there is a trust involved with our company, right? So
Right.
at the end of the day, when you have a construction manager, you're really going to need to know that you trust them and that you value them, right? And we had a relationship with the city. We weren't initially picked. I think that they found out that maybe we were the right choice in the long run. And we were able to convince them that because they wanted to work with us and because they valued us, they liked the construction manager as an agent deal. And it also allowed us to go fast because they were already deep into the project and needed to keep moving. But in general, I believe that, they went the agent rigs because of our relationship with them, and they knew who we were.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was, they understood the cumbersome process for CM at risk. I mean, there's projects that you might get 15 contractors submitting qualification statements, and it's a lot to go through, and you're anticipating that a dozen may not be good fits for your project, but you still have to go through them, you have to consider them, you have to rank them, you have to score them, and then move the ones that meet your minimum score on to the next step. So.
I have a couple questions, but do you have more to go through, or?
No, I think that's it. I had some closing remarks, but.
Number one, could you send us that presentation? I'd like to be able to study it a little better. That'd be something you could email over?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then Carly, Nelson, yourselves, what kind of projects? I know you build things, I understand that part, but on city projects, if we do road construction and sewer and water main and those kind of things, what of those are you involved in?
We historically have not been involved in roads, streets, and public utilities like that. Obviously, we do that type of stuff. If we build a new building somewhere, chances are it has paving and utilities, and that part we do. We also do power plant work, like University of Iowa Power Plant. We've done a lot of work at that type of facility. But our approximately 50% of our work is industrial construction, manufacturing, process manufacturing typically. And then about 50% is what we call our architectural division, which is primarily recreation centers, K through 12 schools, and hospitals. Now, we do a lot of other things. We do police stations and fire stations and things like that, but that's kind of our core market.
We're mainly talking about vertical infrastructure, not horizontal
That's right.
infrastructure.
Yep.
Now, there may be some projects that
Wastewater treatment plants, things like that. we do.
overlap, wastewater treatment plants, perhaps a part design and construction. I'm not sure, I mean, there are component pieces of it, but mainly vertical infrastructure is what we're
Not
talking
force
about.
main, not,
So,
Yeah.
would have loved to have it in this case. We had Lowell and I would walk across the street every day and come over and walk through the building. Well, that was probably not your best option. Best option would be do CMA and have those folks involved, and Carly involved and help us to, one, have a better product, and two, come in. And there was a number of issues or challenges that popped up during that construction that these experts that would work for us and that are, whereas with the typical design bid build process that you've got the city as a party, you've got the engineers as a party who technically works for us and their inspectors technically work for us, but not to the same degree that a CMA relationship would be there, which I'd love to have, which is as well. And then, so it's vast majority of vertical infrastructure.
my last one is, I kind of want to repeat back to you what I think I just heard, just to make sure I'm understanding this. I'd spent a lot of time working as a programmer in a previous life, and if somebody else would have designed what I needed to then try to build, that they don't know that part of it. So it seems to me like there's that break in there on most things we do, and that's where having a manager in place would maybe solve some of those issues. And I think we just had a part where we did a new trail system and a overpass and those things. And part of that, they went in and cut all of the weight sensors for our stoplights, and it cost us a bunch of money doing that. Is that the kind of scenario where if someone who did the work was designing that would have said, hey, look, there's probably those things there, and not cut those things?
That's examples. There's another project that we're pursuing completely out of the area right now, and we were just talking about it. We're competing for the job under the CM at risk, and we were just brainstorming. We've done a lot of these types of facilities and talk about some of the things that we've seen gone wrong on them, that the foundations aren't coordinated with another component of the building, that forces you to, it really forces the contractor to excavate and undermine foundations because the design's not coordinated with the way it gets built. So we were talking about just some of the things that we could really help with the design on this project, set up the exterior openings so we can get equipment in and out so you're not building things out of sequence. You know, we call those constructability things, making sure that the design is coordinated with how it gets built. And that's the stuff that we add a lot of value during the construction. That way the contractor's not forced to do things backwards in the field because of the way the design. If we do things backwards, there's a good chance that a mistake's going to get made, or you're going to get poor quality work because you're backing them into a corner. So by doing better planning, making the job more efficient, you get better quality work, typically better bids, things like that. So yes, I think your example is spot on.
Thank you. Well, I'll give Aaron my email address so you can send that presentation, but
yeah,
thank you for being here.
Another important thing here we haven't emphasized enough is the budget portion of this, right? We talked about the fire station. A good construction manager, and what I think our reputation is built on, is giving you the confidence that the project is going to be X dollars. Now, there are always things that can go wrong, but a construction manager puts you in a place where when you need to go for a bond, or when you tell the public it's going to be X amount of dollars, if they do their job right, you can be very confident that that's what the project comes in on. And that is one of the things that is overlooked when it comes to construction management, is budgeting. And for a city, it's really important. That's why we do a lot of industrial work too, because they can't go to their CFO and ask for another $100,000 because we missed on their budget. So that is something that I absolutely wanted to emphasize, is that it's a key component of that delivery method.
Yeah, that's a really good point. An example of that would be, we were a construction manager on a new high school for Sioux Center, Iowa. It's about as extreme northwest Iowa as you can get, right up next to Minnesota and South Dakota. And we got started really early. Well, we got started later than ideal, but it was early in the design. So that schematic design was just wrapping up, so it was about 25% complete. And literally, we knew it was a little bit late. The client knew it was late. So, I mean, the next day after they selected us, we got started with the cost estimate. And that job was about $6.2 million over what they had to spend on that project, which is obviously a lot of money. It was a $50, $60 million job, but we got to work right away on ways to reduce the cost of that project that nobody would ever even know at the end of the day. And that job bid just barely under budget. Schedule went perfect. I mean, that's a perfect example that, had that bond referendum went out for a vote, they would have been $6 million short on their budget. And what do you do now type thing. So, but we caught it early, made adjustments to it, and it came in very well at that point.
I mean, it's value engineering early on, so during design. There's a potential for value engineering during construction as well as in that relationship. It's so much more difficult to do value engineering after the fact than the design bid.
It is. Yep.
Build project than it would be through CMA process. That we're much more at the mercy of the contractor at that point than being able to do it up front and doing the value engineering ahead of time and during the process rather than after the fact, after it's bid. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Greg, a lot of our value engineering is looking at building structures. Is it structural steel? Is it bar joists? Is it precast concrete? Those types of things that we're evaluating different options early in the design and then gearing the structural engineer towards the system that makes the most sense for that job. Well, you can imagine that that structural engineer is not going to be real excited if he or she gets the entire facility fully designed, and then that contractor comes in and says, oh, I want you to redesign the whole thing and change it from steel to concrete. That's not going to go over very well. So we're doing all that very, very early. Another big thing that we look at is building code compliance strategies. You guys probably know, but there's oftentimes, multiple ways to comply with the building codes. And oftentimes those different ways come with different price tags, right? So we're kind of assisting the design team to evaluate different ways to comply with the code and finding the one that it may or may not be the most expensive way to comply with the code, but maybe it's the one that gives the end user the most flexibility on how they use the space. So again, that code compliance is absolutely driving the design. It has to be done early on or it's a whole lot of rework.
So some of the projects that we have in mind, and I kind of throw this out to Greg also, but are there some that, would fit into your umbrella, so to speak, that, like our Trailhead Park, is that something that would be within the scope of what you would be doing or could do?
Trail?
It's a Trailhead Park that we have. It's over up by the mall.
Actually, right back here.
Yeah, there's a picture of what university students would kind of.
It'd be component pieces of perhaps that Trailhead Park design versus somebody like a RDG or an engineering firm coming in and doing the final design for the park layout and in the process. But I can think of some vertical infrastructure projects that may be valuable having some early discussions on, or some economic development projects as well, potential projects that where we could easily team up on. It may be valuable to have early discussions on those. But the sewer plant would have been a great opportunity. Twice that I can think of, it would have been a great opportunity to have you in on those as a CMA.
And Ron,
bring those costs down.
I think what you're saying too is, let's think years out, right?
Yes.
Like, my job as a director of business development, most of my stuff is 27, 28 right now, right? And that is because they're trying to figure out what's it going to cost, what should it look like. Our value at that point of time is very, very strong because we're able to give input, like Chris has been saying, with the designer, with your team, understand your goals, and give good latitude before we're even close to putting a shovel into the ground. So what we like to say is, if you have an idea, we often come and talk to you about it and understand what you want. And there are times where there are facilities that are 8 years out that we've been working on before we even started building it. But those are the projects that end up being the most successful because the team has been together and communicating and understanding what needs to be done.
And that's where the value comes in, and the idea really around the original presentation was we haven't used this form, we haven't used CMA before, and the other option wasn't even available to us as well. So this is an opportunity, one, to learn a little bit about the process, the value that it brings, and to be thinking about projects that we do have forthcoming where this could be a good option for us to utilize, personally, CMA process, and to make sure that we're all aware that this is an option for us. So,
One thing I just wanted to clarify is, there's no project that would be such that we're not interested in. It's more about, if you remember I said in the presentation that I'm confident that construction management doesn't add cost to your project. The qualifier of that is that it's a project that's appropriate for construction management. So we're always going to tell our clients we're never going to say, no, we don't want to do that project, but we might tell a client that we think that construction management would likely add some cost to this project. And again, the street would be an example. There's a paving contractor and an excavation contractor, and either one of them, they're not hiring a layer of subcontractors underneath them. So there's no general contractor markup typically in that type of a project. That'd be one where a construction manager would add some cost because we would be marking up those contractors. Versus, let's say it's a project that has an excavation and a concrete and a steel erection and a brick mason and electrician and a plumber and an HVAC and all those other trades. A general contractor is going to go out and hire subcontracts and mark all them up, and no different or similar to what a construction manager would. That's why there's no additional cost. We have clients that come to us and say, yeah, I heard you and I understand that a CM may add a little bit of cost to this project, but I'm short-staffed. I don't have the resources to manage and supervise this project from the city or a school district or a county hospital's perspective. I want you to be part of this project because I'm short on resources. I know you're going to look out for my interests. We do that sometimes. Mid-Prairie School has us doing a job this summer that's $250,000 probably, because we've done 15 projects for them the last decade, and they know what to expect from us, and they're willing to pay for a supervisor to be up there and help supervise that work. So nothing's ever going to be we're not interested. It'd just be us being transparent with you that, yeah, we can help you with that, and we think we can add some value, but it might cost you a premium in that type of a project to do that.
And last but not least, what I've been hearing a lot is we're looked at as a school builder, hospital builder, police station builder. We're looked at the big projects, right? I can't emphasize enough, especially for the city of West Burlington, there's no project that's too small for a client like you, right? So we may tell you that you are better off to go somewhere else, and we're happy to do that. But there are many times where we don't get opportunities because they think it's too small. The message I'm giving you is that's not the case. We do plenty of quote-unquote smaller projects as a company. If you have any questions after this, we threw a lot out. It took me a long time to understand this. We're always available to come talk to you and explain these, but to Greg's point, thank you for having him come, and we're just glad to help. It's when you're not involved on a daily basis, this is some confusing stuff. So
I always like working with a company that's local also. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
for having us tonight.
Thanks,
as Aaron said, feel free to reach out if you got any questions.
In that packet, I'll give Andy my email too, so you can get a hold of us if you need to, and Greg has it as well.
Yep. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good to see you, Brad.
Okay, we'll go on to our second item of new business, which is considering entering into a 28E agreement with the West Burlington School District to fund a school resource officer.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion on this?
Yeah. I just have a clarification question. Based upon the grant that we're attempting to get and the 2-year review and the proposal. Is there any conflict on that? If we were to receive the grant, how long we have to keep the officer?
Recall, the grant will be for a police officer,
Correct.
not for an SRO.
So it does not matter.
It does not matter.
Okay.
It's not, they're unrelated. The SRO would come from current staff, and we'd be applying for a COPS grant simply for a new officer. So unrelated.
Yes,
in
but
order
we'd
for us
still
to
be
move forward.
required to keep that extra officer if this were to stop in 2 years.
Yeah,
We would just
there's a,
take on another officer, or?
you're required to keep that officer on for the, is it the 4th year?
Yeah, I think it's 4 years.
I think it's 4 years now. So you keep that officer on for year 4 if you do receive the COPS grant.
It's a pretty common 2080 agreement, just kind of revisit every 2 years, seeing how things are going and all that, so, yeah.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify.
Nope, good question.
I had 2 questions I'd sent over to Greg that I think are kind of missing in here, and I think there needs to be a proration set out in the contract for if it is terminated within the term of the contract. There's that 90-day clause that either party can get out, and there's no real what happens payment-wise if that happens, if we don't make it all the way to the end, that they still owe that many days at the next day period, and I think that chapter needs to be in there. And then there's no chapter about any kind of liability, which I was surprised about. I'm not the one to write that. I don't know what it needs to say, but I was surprised that that's not spelled out in there somehow, both directions. Other than that, there is just a series of typos and misnumberings, and
I think the typos are cleaned up. I sent I discussed the 2 questions briefly with Jason. He's on vacation. Both attorneys have reviewed it, and neither one recommended the information, but I've re-asked the question as to both of them. Our goal would be to try to get it on the April 1 council agenda for final action, and their first meeting in April for final action as well. But I've asked those 2 questions specifically, even though neither attorney recommended it. I'm guessing it's, to your point, we're responsible for the police officers and their liability, whether they're working for the city or at the school district. So we're responsible for that liability. I'm guessing that's it. There may be some generic or a component piece that we could include in there. So I specifically asked that question. There is some proration in there because they do pay us twice per year, and it talks about if we're not there for 2 weeks, that they would then we would reimburse them because they're actually the ones paying the city, so we're not out any funds. But if we need a more, I'm not sure we do, but if we do want something more under the termination clause on a proration piece, which would actually be us refunding them more than it would be that, because they would be paying us twice per year.
they're paying us before those months?
It's laid out in here, the 2 months that they would be paying us in the agreement. So,
It's December and May, but he's
December and
asking.
May, right.
Right. Is December's payment for the last 6 months before December, or is December's payment for the next 6 months leading it through June?
It would be after, because you're not starting in September.
Be for the calendar year.
Doesn't want to make the first payment.
Be for the calendar year.
Sure.
So, but I have asked those 2 specific questions as well. But I'm guessing neither one of them thought that the other was questioned, because we're responsible for the liability either way for the officer.
I mean, frankly, I was more surprised they didn't have it on their end, that
Yep.
it would protect them, but
Mhm.
I just thought there might be something to look at there. But otherwise, the substance of it, those were the only 2 things I had an issue with.
I mentioned that to Jason, and he's on vacation. I didn't want to bug him too much, and then I sent the question off as well.
So with those, I guess,
If there's any other
discussions.
comments or questions, happy to take those into consideration or ask the questions as well. Tried to keep it kind of basic and short and sweet. The one issue that we just, probably the biggest issue we talked about was putting it out to bid every 2 years. There's 2 provisions in here. There's a provision that allows the school, if they have some concerns, to bring it forward. And obviously, there's a termination clause as well. But the main goal, not the main goal, I guess, one of the key aspects of having an SRO is the relationship building. And so we didn't want to be required to put it out to bid every 2 years. Now, it can go out to bid, people change, roles change, those things. We didn't want to be required to put it out to bid every 2 years because that relationship building, and they understand that as well, that's one of the key features of having an SRO in there. So that we took out in the proposed language. Now, the school actually was interested in having that in there, but I think that relationship piece is probably the most important piece of this whole puzzle that we're working on here. But just an FYI, I guess, more than anything, that we did not want to be required to put it out to bid every 2 years. It doesn't make any sense.
The only other thing I've seen I did a dozen-ish 28Es when I was on the school board, and we tended to try to do them on a rolling contract that automatically renewed, just so it wasn't another fight. I don't know if there's any interest in that or not, if there's any interest from the school side, but that way 2 years from now, both bodies kind of auto-renews unless somebody gives like a 30-day notice that they want to vote on it. Not saying we have to do that, just throwing it out there.
Rather than just just the termination.
Yeah, that would auto-renew for another 2 years, and you'd have to change some language about some other sections about duration and termination and those kind of things. But that was something we did just so it wasn't another argument and another, you kind of knew your budget cycle a little better at what was coming up unless somebody asked to bring it up. And I think there was a time frame. You didn't bring it up 30 days before it renewed. You know, it was 6 months before or something. You got to give a termination. But just thought.
Yeah, when to get through the first 2 years and see what little bumps in the road there might be that.
Well, we might find that out within the first year, so.
I'm not going to answer for Jason, but I'm guessing funding is probably their main concern with budgets these days. And but we can certainly ask the question because there is the termination provision. But.
So how do we want to proceed with this motion that's on the floor here? Do we want to?
I'd motion to table until next
April 1st.
meeting.
Okay.
April 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
Support.
Motion and support. I'll just ask for a roll call. No, voice vote on that. All in favor of tabling this until April 1st?
Aye.
By saying aye. Thank you. We'll move on then. Let's see. Consider entering into a professional services agreement for the proposed force main replacement project with Snyder and Associates.
Third one on my list.
Am I missing?
Number 3.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Last time I told you that was wrong, though.
Well, this time you're right. Consider entering into a professional services agreement with Hidden Prairie Engineering for a final design and bidding for the Trailhead bioretention cell project.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and second. Discussion?
Well, we were just told we shouldn't do it this way, but.
The mentioned earlier, I mean, we have the grant, we're receiving the agreement for funding here shortly after Amy was out here doing the walkthrough. Had a ton of good feedback from DNR on the project, so they're excited about the project. It's a high traffic, high visibility project for them, so it helps us reduce our costs, and it's a better project environmentally as well. The water will be able to properly be absorbed in. You'll have some natives around there, and then there is the pipe there to transfer the water if necessary too. But and it's half the cost of the project, so excited to see that.
Okay. No further discussion? And I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Browner.
Aye.
Lees.
Aye.
Newberry. Aye. Syed.
Aye.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's go to, this time, number 4, which is entering into a professional services agreement with a proposed force main replacement project with Snyder and Associates.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Lindsay is on the, on Zoom, if you have any questions for her. We have both the force main and the subsequent one that we budgeted for going forward. I threw that one on at this time as well, because there may be some overlap with the force main project, but happy to answer any questions, and Lindsay's on here as well from an engineering perspective.
Lindsay, this is Andy Crowner. I just had one question and on the force main project. I had some other questions on the next one, but was there some of the work done, and I was thinking it was in 2021, that maybe overlapped with some of this work that's being done in this agreement? Is there some things that have already been knocked off, or some things that maybe need adjusted because of that, or is that too long ago?
Yeah, no, there is a study that has a good chunk of considerations in place, which is great. It for some reason done the DNR review process, where they set up, you get the DNR permit assigned, and you give them your design criteria so they can approve that. So we need to just step back and get that through the DNR process, make sure we're hitting all those check marks. But I plan to use all that information as much as possible.
Lindsay, there is a component piece, though, that we need to do for DNR approval, so that we have that plan in place. I can't think of what that's called.
Facility plan. A facility plan.
The facility plan will want to get approved as part of this process as well, formally by DNR. That's included in here as well. It also has the consideration of, look at some options, including the 2 force main options, the 12-inch options. Make sure we're looking at capacity. We've had several discussions. Lindsay generally thinks that we've got plenty of design capacity for the future, but we want to make sure that that's the case and ensure that as we go forward as well. But and this is the project that we submitted the Miller Meeks community project funding application for as well. The engineering component would be cash on hands, and for the difference, we just most likely do an internal loan if we haven't received all of it. We've got 300 and some change sitting in cash right now, and then we'll have more franchise fees coming in yet this year, and then we'll if we need to, we can just do a simple internal loan to cover the additional franchise fees. The project itself is a different payment method. Obviously, the franchise fees were adopted. That would be a general GO-SRF most likely, unless something else comes available, or obviously unless we can offset some of those costs with community project funding as well. Paid back with franchise fees, so we don't have to raise rates. That's the goal, unless some other funding opportunities are identified or come available.
Greg, do you think it helps or hurts our case for the grants having this started on the design side?
I think it helps. I think it puts us in a better position to move forward. The funds need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not spent, but what's that? Committed for the project within a certain time frame. So having this, getting this portion done, it's the construction piece, the $10.6 million that is where we've applied for those grant dollars. So we want to make sure that we are good to go in a timely fashion. Ideally, this could be bid out. Everything goes well, we're awarded community project fundings. We can move forward with the project in 2027. Ideally, everything moves smoothly. So that would be the goal, and commit the funds at that time as well. So yes, I think it actually helps our application.
Everyone ready?
I am on 4. I have some other things on 5, but.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead with 4 then, which is the only one I have the motion on, so. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll go to number 5, which is consider entering into a professional engineering services agreement with Snyder and Associates for the proposed water and sewer service study, future business and industrial park considerations.
So moved.
Okay, do I have anyone who's going to second that? Second, thank you. Discussion, please.
So these are the items that we included in this year's budget. The council wanted to get kind of a head start on this process. There may be some overlap with the work that's being done, the Force Main project, but page 1 under, it starts to lay out the scope of services, and on those 4 or 5 items that we budgeted $5,000 for to complete. We get a number of questions regarding our system. Plus, we have some planning that we're looking to be able to account for as well. And this will help us put together those answers that we're looking for on a number of aspects of our water and sewer system for planning purposes, to answer questions about existing capacity that we get for construction, and a number of things that are listed in the agreement. Happy to answer any questions you have or provide those to you. Or Lindsay's here as well.
My only issue, because was perfectly for this during budget time, but reading through the scope of services, it surprised me how much it seems like the focus is outside of West Burlington. And so I was just wanting kind of an explanation of, or maybe even toss around the idea of maybe we should be talking to the county of buying into this as well and paying part of this design. But it looks like it's a lot of things that are outside of the city.
I think, well, there's a potential, I mean, there's discussion around potential business park, but it's all infrastructure that we currently own or are servicing in areas. So you've got Raiders is included in there, you've got potential areas out along Beaverdale, you've got our system from Lures to all of the infrastructure. Lures is 19, what did we figure that was? It hasn't been touched in 30, 40 years. Infrastructure over there as well. So it's all city infrastructure that we're looking at. There is some outside of the city limits, but that's city infrastructure where we're perhaps looking at pressure. We have a water tower now rather than a water storage tank. So that pressure is going to be different. There's going to be a number of factors that are different, having different infrastructure in place. It's all city infrastructure.
Okay.
And planning.
I guess you start reading through the scope, and number 1 sounds to me like it's way outside of our area, being west of the ethanol plant.
Which page are you on?
Are you saying the west of Big River Resources?
Right.
That's probably the one on Gear Avenue, I would imagine.
Which one what page are you on?
Well, it's 60 of the packet, page 1 of the Exhibit A, scope of services, first sentence. Sorry, second sentence. Generally include an area between US 34, Business 34, and west of Big River Resources Cooperative Ethanol Plant.
That should read east of Big River Resources, shouldn't it? It's in paragraph 1 under scope of services. We're not doing anything west of Big River Resources.
No, we're doing that same industrial park we looked at before. That same area, that same trouble.
We're having a little trouble understanding you, Lindsay. We're having a little trouble understanding you.
Okay.
What did you say?
It should be the same area that we worked on previously, the developable industrial park out there.
So there was work done by Snyder back in, was it 2014? It's that same service area that was done, the study that was done in 2014 that needs to be updated. So that should cover the same 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2008. So I mean, we're 16, 17, 18 years past that last study that was done in that service area. So we're trying to cover the same area that was included in that service area. But I don't recall there being areas west of Big River Resources.
We can fix that.
You think that should be east?
East
I mean,
of Big
would make
River,
more sense.
east of Big River Resources makes more sense, correct, yeah. But so there's the 2008 study that was done and deals with, but a lot of things have changed in that time frame. Obviously, the age of the infrastructure has changed. We have a number of issues that have been identified. We have the water tank, the water storage, groundwater, water storage tank is gone. We have a new elevated storage, so pressures are going to be different. So for planning purposes and a number of different reasons, and we get questions for whether we're answering an IEDA form and we're looking at our capacity to serve an area or a particular business or a particular location, and this will help us have that information readily available to those folks, as well as help us better plan for future projects and maintain our infrastructure. So that's the goal with this study. And to
I don't
update
have
that.
much of an issue if that's east of there. I was
No.
I was confused why that's
Not
west
west.
of there. and why we're-
Yeah, we're not going west of Big River.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there was a recommendation at one point in time. I heard some discussion of putting a water line on the west side of, or maybe it was directly north of Big River Resources to serve them. There was some earlier, this is a long time ago, but no. Nothing west of Big River Resources.
Any further discussion?
My only question is if you need me to motion that change.
Just a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment. Who was the second on that? Is that all right?
Kathy?
No, there was somebody down there.
Second. You second, okay. So if it's all right with you, we'll just make that as a friendly amendment. All right.
Turn my page.
With that in mind, then,
He's included, yes.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you. I'll consider number 6, a resolution for hiring Brian Reich to fill the second part-time position at the fire department.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none? Roll call, please.
Please.
Aye.
Newberry. Aye. Dias.
Aye.
Gilbert.
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 7.
Just for clarification, we do have the 2 positions filled that we talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Those positions will, so right now we have 2 positions budgeted for part-time work, maximum 20 hours up at the fire station. That'll switch to two 20-hour positions after the budget's approved for July 1st to help respond to ambulance or EMT calls, et cetera, medical calls, all calls really. And then so we'll update those we'll create job descriptions for those. Right.
Well.
Right now,
because-
they're budgeted at 2 positions for 20 hours under the existing budget, and then that'll
So-
switch out July 1st.
Justin Pryor and Brian Reich.
Yes.
Because here we have removed Zach Boyd, and I don't know what that deals with.
He was the original 20 hours, but he just hasn't been working or fulfilling that job, so we changed it to Brian.
Okay.
So, Zach's still in the fire department, but he's not working the 20-hour part-time with
Okay.
Justin, so,
those are just the 2 people that are filling that 20-hour
yeah.
position.
We have a request for keeping chickens at 517 Melville.
Your Honor, could we speak to the matter before take it out of order, I guess,
Go ahead.
discussion. So on the desk in front of you, we were looking at the code and having some internal discussions and reached out to the city attorney as well, and it's his recommendation that the council not act on these requests under the current code until the code is modified to include an actual section within our zoning ordinance that deals with this. And our new zoning ordinance does have that section included in it once it's adopted. There's a sentence in the current code that allows or appears to allow council to the ability to review these matters but without any clear guidance, I'd say, per code. So those decisions can be arbitrary and capricious, and it's his recommendation that we simply not proceed with these requests until the council actually adopts and includes it within the zoning or within the zoning ordinance and within a particular district or districts. So that's on there as well. And then part two, it is included, as I stated, in the proposed zoning ordinance that's undergoing the final review. And we just wanted to make sure that there was still a majority that wants to include it before they go through that review in those residential areas, or to include it as well in the new code. Staff recommendation hasn't changed. It's our recommendation not to include chickens in residential zones. Now, there may be some appropriate areas or districts. We have 2 permitted areas. Ag, obviously, would certainly be a permitted district, but there may be a couple areas within the city limits that would be appropriate to consider it. But, so, two items. One, council's recommendation, legal counsel's recommendation not to proceed under the current ordinance. You have before, so council decision. And then 2, is there still, is there a majority that would like to proceed with residential chickens in the new zoning ordinance? So, 2 questions, I guess.
Well.
Yes.
The packet went out on Friday the 13th. It was amended on Monday to add number 7. Right? Yes. Okay. And so these people filed this thing on the 24th of February, according to the application. Okay. And so we wait until today when it's on the agenda to say, yeah, no. Maybe when she submitted the application, we should have said then that we're reconsidering our ordinance and limiting the amount of chickens per square foot. That was the last conversation I remember we having as a council, that it would be limited to how many chickens, like 1.5 per so many square feet. Well, Andy figured up I could have 10 chickens in my yard.
Well, what happened was, do you remember the gentleman that came to the council meeting about his chickens?
Yeah, and he still has his chickens?
He still has his chickens, so we were at the point where we needed to talk to the attorney about the next step for that. And that's when the discussion back and forth with the attorney, he wanted to know what zoning district that guy was in, then he looked at the code, and that was his response to the whole situation. And I told him at the same time, now we have this new one on the agenda for tonight, and he said, I think you need to just hold off.
So why have we waited all this time to deal with the person with the chickens that's the problem?
That's not my department.
We gave him the option to come to the city council meeting. He showed up, did not follow proper procedures, and that went on for a month. And then when he did not follow through with the chickens, we received another complaint by the neighbor, and then that's when I brought it forward late February with providing him a signed copy of our ordinance. I showed him our ordinance multiple times, gave him a final notice saying, you need to remove these by this date, or we're gonna proceed with the city attorney. And that's what we've been working on for the last several weeks with the city attorney, with the gentleman over on the east side of town. That's been in violation.
For this request, that's a different issue. For this request, it just didn't make it on the first meeting in March. That was the only issue.
I know.
It just
But
didn't get done, it just didn't get received in a timely fashion.
If we were planning on not having chickens in a residential area, maybe somebody should have told those people when they submitted this claim, like, you know, the council is talking about eliminating chickens in residential area, and maybe you want to hold off on this.
No,
Because
the
they
council's-
went out and did the legwork,
council's
and they
not
got all the
eliminating it in
signatures from their
reg-
neighbors and submitted it.
The proposed zoning ordinance allows for it, does not, the proposed zoning code allows for it, and has language written into it that allows for it.
Yeah.
We were still discussing this topic today. This just missed one agenda item. This particular request missed the first meeting in March is all. We were still talking about this topic today. So the proposed ordinance has language allowing chickens in residential areas with a per square foot or whatever,
Nothing to tell these people.
Language what?
It's in the current code to allow that.
And his most recent recommendation after those discussions related to the other gentleman and his review of the code was, let's hold off, or his recommendation, let's hold off until we have some definitive criteria by which the council can make a decision. That's brand new stuff. I mean, that's this week. That's information we received this week.
And then on the application, it just says that, I understand that city council's approval is good for 1 year, by which time the city may have developed the guidelines and must reapply for keeping the chickens.
Right.
So, I mean,
The problem is, that's not in an ordinance form, is what the attorney was concerned about. It needs to be, and I think Andy brought this up too when we were talking about the last time we issued one. There's no regulations. We have issued them before, but it's just based on the guidelines that.
This is an application that someone came up with in a number, what, 2018, I think you said? 2017?
how many people legally have chickens in the city?
2.
And then we have the other one that's illegal.
Yep.
Andy's neighbor and an agency, Krell's.
On a farm, basically.
I don't know, I'm thinking about raising a cow myself with the price of beef.
So, yes, this one was delayed, and we've been discussing it through today. And the legal piece
I
and
think
recommendation
put the
actually
egg
just
before the
came
chicken on
this week, but, I'm sorry?
We didn't, well,
I didn't hear the question.
thinks we didn't handle it right. And there was nothing different to handle at the time. We weren't telling her, I mean, if she turned that in, there was nothing to say that we weren't going to issue it.
A new issue came up, which was investigated, and that's what led to the information in
Yeah, but
general.
that issue's been going since last year, hasn't it?
Right, so that's
really
moving,
a new issue.
that issue would be moving forward as a municipal infraction. And so that issue drove discussions related now to and by the way, now there's another request. Is there something that needs to be done with this request? And the request is hold off until you have a definitive code. That's the recommendation. But that's all new information this week.
I think we all sort of dropped the ball because we should have continued on. This is one thing that fell off the agenda with items of discussion after we had that previous discussion, and we didn't continue on it where we could have, should have solved the problem. It's just as much as my fault as anybody else's for not continuing pushing it. Let's get it resolved instead of just letting it hang out there.
There was a point where council was against adopting code.
And
To do
some,
this.
some were.
There was that point, because even though I'm against having chickens at all, my recommendation was we at least have code, so, mostly so I didn't have to vote no against it every year. But,
Well, I think that it stopped when we started doing the zoning ordinance, and they put that whole section into the zoning code. Well, then that's been the kind of a,
It's being final, yeah, so we're working to get that finalized right now, so that's where it is. But
we could do an ordinance outside of the zoning regulations, but his recommendation is to put it into the zoning regulations, which is a big project.
I make a motion to table this.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion.
we could pull that, oh, sorry, we could pull that section of the zoning ordinance out for your discussion, if that's what you'd like. Just to revisit that topic, if that's something you're interested in doing. We just bring that section back for discussion.
Let me see if I can just get a kind of idea on what people are thinking. I mean, I know Andy would vote no for chickens within the city.
I would, and if you'll give me 3 sentences, the reason I feel that way is it's not a normal thing to have in a residential area. And I've showed houses to people in other towns around us where they don't buy a house because there's chickens next door. And so, in my opinion, it devalues your neighbors' homes. If you have chickens in yours and they someday want to sell, there are some amount of buyers that are not interested in living next to an animal that typically is not in a residential neighborhood. That's why I feel that way.
Okay. All right.
But my opinion is this, is that I live in the agricultural area. And you get some people move out in the agricultural areas and they don't like the sound of livestock, but that's what you hear. I mean, it's expected. In the inner city area, I understand why people want the chickens because they're trying to, save money. But most people that I would think that live in the city do not want to really listen to a bunch of chickens cackling or that does set off reaction to other animals in the area. I've got mixed emotions on this because we've already approved 2 of them. Or, the 2 already people have been approved, and I feel like that we sort of we did drop the ball. We should have done something. We should have put an ordinance in there that would have given us more direction and clarity, and then getting this cleaned up. I probably would have voted, if we had not had the people, I probably would vote no.
My oldest daughter and her family have chickens. They live out in the country. And there's an odor that goes with them also, not just the noise factor. And I would not be happy if my neighbor decided to put a chicken coop up and have chickens.
I understand other council members' opinions. My opinion is a little different. With the economy the way it is, and people need to pay their bills and support their food, I don't feel it's right for me to tell them no, especially at the limits that we have, less than 12. That being said, yes, we can add to that, cleanliness and odors and property lines to protect neighbors. I don't disagree with any of that, but my feelings are with the food, that egg is a lot, so I get that. My other concern with currently what we're doing, I think follows Teresa a little bit. They've been waiting for 3 weeks. I respect our attorney and his recommendation, and I would follow that. I just want to make sure that we reach out to this community member and make sure that they understand why we're making the decisions that we are, and a timeline on when they can get a decision from us.
It's a good suggestion. Yeah.
Well, and in the ordinance, we can, mandate that they have a cleanliness, because, I have neighbors that have pit bulls next to me on one side, and they have cats on the other side. I'm out there scooping the doo-doo every day with my 2, and the yards next to me are just not so cleanly. But then I get the waft of marijuana, which makes me high to go out and pick up some more doo-doo.
Nope.
So your smells are what you get.
One more sentence. I am in favor still, even if council decides not to have chickens in general, of having some option to have it in agricultural areas. And there are certain areas of our town that are still kind of rural areas that I think it still makes sense to have a code that allows for them to do that and set in place, again, procedures and maintenance to that. I believe 5 or 6 years ago, we approved one out on North Gear that had, 5 or 6 acres of land. To me, that's a different scenario than on Broadway Street. So I'd still like to have a piece of code, even if I'm against it, just for those situations.
Some of them are based on lot size.
There's one he recommended, and he's the city attorney for Clinton as well, and I haven't looked at that one, but he did recommend it, and Kelly printed it off as well. But we'll put it back on the agenda for those discussion items. A quick piece, and I haven't done research on it, but I've read I've seen a number of articles that actually on the economics of it, it's actually more expensive than purchasing eggs from the store than raising the chickens themselves. So technically, the studies that I've seen most recently all indicate that it's actually far more expensive to raise your chickens. Now, you may enjoy it, but it's actually far more expensive to go that route than actually go to the store and purchase them.
To add what you're saying, Greg, my personal experience and my son raising chickens, that is a true statement that you just made. Now, it's different if you freelance them, where some people were able to take them in cages and then move them around and pick the grubs up, and you're not going out and feed them and everything like that. That's different than when you're getting that, and there's other physical problems they've encountered that I didn't realize that came with chickens. But if we do the code, I do know some of the schools, I know Mediapolis has done this before, where they actually raise the chickens from eggs, to see so we'd have to make I imagine some sort of exceptions for, for eating things like that.
Those are the ones we were gonna put at your house.
There is an exception, I think, in ours to allow them, like at the college.
That would be good, yeah.
Well, the one ordinance we looked at, we had, 1.5 chickens per, what square foot?
I can't remember off the top
Because
of
you
my head.
calculated, I
It
could have
was
12 chickens.
1.5, yeah, it was
Okay,
1.5
goes
for
in
so many
for
square feet.
Well, there's a motion on the floor for tabling this, and then Greg has indicated that he will bring up what we currently have going forward with the
Maybe in another example or two.
Yeah.
And to contact that family.
And to contact
Yes.
them.
Yes, please.
So I will ask for a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is tabled. All right, at this point, seeing no citizen inquiries, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Motion is